Hey guys, welcome back to 44's channel. If this is the first time you've watched one of 44's videos, hello, my name is Jess. I'm a life coach and I make videos on topics within personal development. So it's really good to see you and I hope you end up finding some videos here which are helpful and which you enjoy. So today's video is the third episode in the series I created called Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is a book by Napoleon. You may have heard of it or you may not have heard of it, but it's mentioned quite often in the personal development sphere, especially linked to the mind and what we think we can become. So I decided, I really want to read this book, and I personally work better when I read things and I share things as I go along. So I feel like everyone has different learning styles. I feel like I do best when I share what I'm busy reading, as opposed to just reading it for knowledge's sake for some reason. So that's why I decided to make these videos, because maybe you'll find it interesting and it would be great if you could also learn something through all of this, like I am. So today's video is the third episode and it's on autosuggestion. Oh, also just to give you some background on Think and Grow Rich and what exactly it is. So it's about this man, well, it's not about this man, it's written by this man called Napoleon Hill. And he went around and studied 500 successful men, financially successful, and he worked out what were the common things between all these men that were making them successful. And then he drew up 14 principles and made a book so that we can also see what it is that makes people successful. And he does say that you don't have to accept every single principle. Maybe just one can resonate with you, or you may not like any of the principles, but just by reading the book and reflecting, he says that reflection is super important, but just from reflection, you can end up learning something or gaining something, or something could trigger inside of you. So let's hop into autosuggestion. So when I read autosuggestion, I had no idea what that was. It sounds like some fancy terminology thing. I didn't really know what it was. Even when I read the book, I still wasn't really sure what it was. I had to Google it to actually make sure. And then I had to Google what auto means. Because you know how the prefixes, if that's what you call it, prefix, suffix, the prefix can usually tell you what the word is about. So I Googled auto and I discovered that auto means self. So basically autosuggestion means the suggestions that you give yourself, i.e. it could be similar to self-affirmations. So that's basically what autosuggestion is. So maybe by you knowing that, you'll have a better understanding of what's going on, as opposed to me when I read the chapter. I was like, what is this autosuggestion? Like, I get all this other stuff he's saying, but what is actual autosuggestion? So I think this chapter and this autosuggestion is extremely important, even though it sounds a bit weird and like some fancy terminology thing. It's actually so important, and I believe that it's the foundation of everything we've spoken about up to this point. And that's basically that your thoughts and what's going on inside of your mind, what you're telling yourself on a daily basis, is what your reality ends up becoming. So autosuggestion says that you can reprogram your brain, you can change your behavior, your thoughts, how you're feeling, just by changing the narration in your head. So you know how we all have that little voice in our head? Some people's are different. Some people, their voice takes on like a second them, so they know their voice is them. For me, especially in the past, I feel like it's got a lot better, but especially in the past, my voice was the form of other people. So example, with anyone, like if I met someone, then they would become a voice in my head, or with my friends, all of them would be voices in my head, and then they would all have conversations with me, and I would come up with scenarios, and they would be telling me things, especially if I learned someone quite well, and if I'd been friends with someone, I would know how they would react in certain situations and what they would think. So they would be out in the real world, and they would be in my head, and then they would just constantly say things to me. And it would just be like negative, 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 like all these negative things. Even like my best friends, and who probably don't even think those things about me, in my head they were thinking all these awful things. And for the longest time I thought they were them. I thought those voices were them, it wasn't me. And then finally I clicked, just because these voices are taking the form of other people. So in my head I'd identified these voices as other people. I realized no, they're not other people, they're me. And I think like what's so scary about that is that something could happen in the real world, so outside in the external world. Say you could have a conversation with someone and it wouldn't go so well. So that just happens once. And the problem is that when you replay that situation that happened in the external world, it becomes twice, and then you replay it again, and then it happened a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time. And because you know how like when something happens and you dwell over it and you go over it, and then you add things, and then if the person said one thing, then you add another thing that they said, and then the conversation is 200 times as long as it usually was, and you've just gone over it a million times. Now this person is an absolute villain in your mind. They're awful. You hate them, they hate you, you're awful, you're terrible, and you've replayed all of this now. And it's funny because it only happened once, like you actually only experienced that once, but because you went over and over and over it in your mind, you've experienced it 200 times, 300 times, you've experienced it a lot of times. And usually when we go over this stuff, we don't just think about it and have no feelings attached to it. Usually when we think about things that have happened, we have a lot of emotion attached to that. So it's like when you were in the situation, maybe you weren't as angry, but once you've replayed it 200 times, now you're like furious, and you've like pushed the person on the ground, and you've run away, and you've done all these things. So now you're getting super heightened in your mind. And the thing is that your brain doesn't know the difference between things happening physically, like things actually happening, and things happening in your mind. Your mind and your subconscious now believes that those 200 times have happened. And now you've thought all of this, you thought all of this, and then in the end, you're going to feel so much worse than you actually did in the beginning. So if you want to actually feel really good in your life and feel good about yourself, I would say that the most important thing to do is to manage your thoughts. So when you're about to go down this rabbit hole of feeling something and experiencing it over and over again, stop yourself and take note of what you're doing, and realize that it's that train of thoughts. It's not necessarily the event, it's all the things that you're telling yourself afterwards that are actually what makes you end up feeling like rubbish at the end of the day. So I don't know if you've ever felt like one day you woke up, la 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 la, and then somewhere in the point of the day, you ended up feeling really rubbish about yourself and really terrible, really awful. You felt really insecure, really terrible. No one loves you. You're so lonely, all of this. The reason why you probably end up feeling like this, or why you've probably ended up feeling like this, is because all day you've been telling yourself all these things. You've been giving yourself examples of why you aren't loved, why you aren't good enough, and this can usually be triggered by something. Maybe something happens in the morning and it makes you think, oh, I'm not loved, no one loves me. And then throughout the day you keep thinking that, and you're not aware of your thoughts, because we have so many thoughts in a day that we aren't even aware of. It's basically just in like auto drive, if that's the word. It just like does it automatically. We aren't even aware of our thoughts. But when you do become aware of your thoughts, you can see like, oh, this is what happened. Something happened at the beginning of the day. You thought about it, you gathered all the evidence to support this particular thought, and then by the afternoon you feel absolutely rubbish because you've been telling yourself this stuff all day long. So when this happens, it's really important to take a look at what you've been thinking. So when you find yourself in a rubbishy mood and you're like, oh, why am I in this rubbishy mood? How did this happen? Look back and say, what am I actually telling myself? Because chances are pretty good for the last 2 hours, or for most people, most of their life, all they've been telling themselves is, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, no one loves me, no one likes me. And your brain is hearing all of this, and it's like, yes, your subconscious, all of it, it's hearing, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not this. And we all know if somebody says to you, you're not worthy, you don't feel that good about it, you feel rubbish, But that's exactly what you're doing. You're telling yourself 200 times, 2 million times that you're not good enough, you're not worthy. And you're playing it out in emotion, and you're seeing images, and like, as I say, you're gathering evidence. So I'm not lonely. I mean, I'm not lovable. And then we think of all the different events when we weren't lovable and to support this argument. But the great thing is that just as you can control your brain and your feelings in a negative way, you can also do it in a positive way. So when you find yourself in a situation like this where you feel like rubbish and you've been telling yourself awful things, all you need to do is to stop, take note, and say, I have the ability to change this. I have the ability to change my reality. And I think this is a problem when we become addicted to negative thoughts. And like, I don't know about you, but sometimes like I like sitting in like a negative frame of mind because it's like, oh, it feels nice to be the victim sometimes and to get attention and to pity ourselves and be like, oh yeah, like that can sometimes feel nice. And I think that's a problem, is that we're like, oh, I want change, I want a better life, I want to be good. But then when it actually comes to making the choices to change our life, we're like, no, I'd just rather be in a terrible state of mind, and we're not willing to take those extra steps of changing it. So I feel like the biggest and most important thing is that you actually want to change your life and you want your life to get better. That has to be a personal choice. No one's going to do it for you. And you need to identify that it's your ego that's telling you like, I like living in this negative space, or like, I hate this space, but I kind of like this space because it adds drama to my life and that's entertaining for me. And like, I'm not judging you at all. I do this as well. That's why I know I have identified that in me. So once you've made the choice, you can decide, I'm going to change those thoughts in my head. So instead of spending the next hour telling myself that I'm rubbish and I'm terrible and I'm this awful person, no one loves me, I'm going to turn that into the opposite and start choosing different, more positive things. So I'm going to say I am worthy, and I'm going to come up with examples of where I have been worthy, where people have liked me, and focus on that. And then amazingly, when you do that, it's so life transforming and you actually do change your mood. So just to give you an example, this happened to me the other day, and this is something that's, I mean, I personally haven't discovered the secret to never having any bad feelings, never ever feeling insecure, never ever feeling jealous. I definitely feel all these things, and just because I've known this doesn't mean that that stuff's gone away. It's something that's still there. And that's the thing, is as humans, we do have these, we aren't these perfect beings with only good qualities. We are going to have like negative and insecure thoughts, or maybe some people never have insecure thoughts, but personally I do sometimes have insecure thoughts, and maybe you do too. But I was saying that this happened to me the other day. So I was having a video call with somebody, and the video call went really well, but you know when you're having a conversation with someone and you just feel like you're very different, you have different values, and yeah, so it was weird because in the actual meeting, I was like, okay, yeah, like I didn't have any negative thoughts. It was more just like, went on with the meeting and I had like this feeling like, oh, like I like had observed that we had different values, and it felt a bit weird. And then afterwards, my mom was like, how was the meeting? And then I told her, and then I vocalized that weird feeling that I had, that we had different values. And then the rest of the afternoon, I kept thinking about it, about, oh, how I didn't like have similar values to this person. And then I went back to high school in my mind, and I was like, oh, that's similar to in high school when I felt like I was this person who just felt so different to other people. Like in a sense, I felt like I fitted in with people, but the whole time I felt like I was so different to people. And that was something I felt a lot of high school. People had such different values to me, and I just didn't feel that great. And then I started thinking of more things about how I've never really fitted in, and now this example, that example, people didn't like me. I was going over all of it, like, oh, I was chosen last for the team, or I wasn't made a prefect, or like all these things, telling myself, oh, like people don't actually like me. And like all day long, just busy thinking these things, busy imagining, busy memorizing them, busy modifying the memories in the past, and what people were probably really thinking behind my back. And I'm just thinking all this stuff. And then at the end of the day, like by the afternoon, I was like, I feel so rubbish. And then I think I went to my mom's office and I was busy crying about how rubbish I feel. And then I was like, okay, the reason why I feel rubbish is because I've just been telling myself all this rubbish. And maybe it is true, maybe it's not, but even so, I've just like been dwelling on it all day long, just been thinking about all the times I'm not loved, all this thing. And then I was like, well, to be honest, I actually am loved. My friends do love me. I do have friends who like me. My family likes me. People do see my value. And it's like, people do see my value, but I wasn't focusing on that. I was focusing on all the people who don't see my value, and not even realistically. People in my mind who don't see my value. I'm not sure what people really think. Maybe they did see my value. Like, I'm not sure. I'm just making up stories in my mind to support this feeling of being like lonely and not liked and not fitting in. So as soon as I identified that, then I went and exercised, and while I was taking a walk, I started coming up with reasons why actually I am loved. I'm like, oh, like Carly, one of my friends, like really loves me, and she always tells me that like she always like validates me in that sense. And then that was something that I would just focus on. I was like like I know that we do have similar values, and like when I was at university I met her and we had similar values, and I'm like not this only random person in the world. Or there's lots of other people who look up to me and who like me. So I tell myself those things. And like sometimes we can be seen like this stuff as you're being egotistical by pointing this out. And I think you can be just as egotistical by thinking about all the bad things that people have said about you. But anyway, so I just like told myself all of these things. And honestly, within 10 minutes, my mood had completely changed. And it does get super frustrating at times when it's like this up and down motion, where it's like, oh, I mean, that is something that I personally have found really frustrating, where it's like one day I'm feeling really good about myself, and the next second I feel rubbish, and the next day I feel really good about myself, and not even like the next day, it's more like in the next 10 minutes I feel like rubbish. And I've identified that it's because of my thoughts. So if I'm choosing to think, oh, I'm rubbish, I'm not good, I'm not this, then I'm going to feel rubbish. If I choose like, oh, people love me, people like me, people look up to me, I'm doing well, I'm making the right choices, then I end up feeling better about myself. But this up and down movement, it reminds me of what I spoke about in my video, The Law of Rhythm. So if you'd like to know more about that, then go and check that video out. So just to summarize everything I've said, basically the stuff that you're telling yourself, the thoughts are in your mind, what you're continuously feeding yourself on a daily basis is what your life is going to end up being, is what you're going to end up feeling. And then leading on from that, what you end up feeling is what's going to determine your actions. So if you're feeling really rubbish about yourself, your actions are going to be like similar to that, like you feeling rubbish about yourself, and then your behavior and your actions are going to be rubbishy, and then your results are going to be rubbishy. So that's why the thoughts in our mind and our subconscious is so important. Because if you're feeling not confident, you're not going to exactly go out there and try and sell your product. But if you feel confident and good about yourself, you're going to go out there and sell your product or sell yourself or anything like that. And repetition is so important. And that's the thing. You might think, oh, I said one good thing about myself and nothing changed. And that's because you've only said it one time. Remember how many times you've told yourself that you're rubbish? For some people, it's been every second of their life. So in order to cancel that out, you're going to have to start saying to yourself, I'm worthy, quite a number of times. So something that I think really helps is self-affirmations, and to write down on a piece of paper all the good things about yourself. Even if you don't believe them, even if you think that you're the worst person in the world, make the committed decision to write it on a piece of paper. I am worthy, I am loved, I am intelligent, I am smart, I am this, I am that, all positive things. And like I say, you don't have to believe it. But once you start saying to yourself, once you read those things every single day or every single time you pass the paper, you're going to start believing those things. Because when you were born, chances are pretty good you didn't have a bad opinion on yourself, but it's only because of other people and then you that you now might have a bad opinion. It was because you told yourself that over and over and over again, even if you weren't conscious of it. So the same thing with feeling better and positive about yourself. You need to repeat to yourself over and over again. I am worthy, I am loved, I am smart, I am intelligent, I am fit, I am slim, I am beautiful, whatever you like. So write that on a piece of paper. You can put it up on your wall. Definitely put it in a place where you're going to see it. You can even put it on your phone. You can put it in multiple places. Put it on the wall, put it on your phone, get reminders. I did suggest this app in my one video on my 3 daily apps. There's this app called Self-Affirmation. It's called My Affirmations. And it's about self-affirmations, but it's only on Android. So yeah, but there's definitely tons of other self-affirmation apps. So definitely go get those. And those are cool because it can come up on your phone as a reminder or a message. So just surround yourself with positivity. So wherever you go, you see all these good things about yourself. And even come up with different examples of when you did feel loved. And think of a memory where you did feel loved, or you did feel accepted, or you did feel good enough, or you did feel smart, and spend a few minutes or seconds focusing on that, because it does work better when you attach feeling into what you're thinking. So the thing is when you have an argument with somebody, and like I was saying in the beginning of the video, when you have an argument with somebody and you replay it in your mind, you have a lot of usually emotion attached to that. So you feel angry and mad, and you're thinking about it and you're getting all emotional. So and then that's why it goes into you more. It goes into your subconscious better. And then in the same sense, if you do that with positive words and really go into it and feel really, so instead of just reading like I am intelligent and moving on, really become present in saying that and feel really intelligent, and like think of an example, and so that makes it more effective, if that makes sense. So hopefully that helps. Even if you don't believe in this stuff or you don't think it works, I feel like if you're in a really bad space and you really want to change your life, you don't really have much to lose by doing this. You don't even have to tell people that you're doing it. You could literally just have a list on your phone. I mean, it could be a completely personal thing, and I just think it's really cool sometimes when you try something out for a few weeks and see if it works. Like, oh, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but you're never going to know unless you try. And don't just do it for a day, like do it for a few weeks, because like I was saying, the repetition element is the most important element. And also the belief behind the repetition. So not just being like, I'm smart, and then your thoughts are like, I'm not smart. Like actually feel smart, pretend that you are smart, and eventually you'll be like, okay, actually I am smart, and your brain will start looking for similar things to when you were smart. So yeah, I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you have any thoughts of your own which you'd like to share, please comment down below. I love reading your comments and engaging with you. If you like this video, please give it a like. And then please hit down subscribe if you'd like to subscribe to my channel and see more of my videos, and press that bell next to it, and that will give you notifications each time I post a new video. I post new videos every Saturday, and the next video and the next chapter will be out next Saturday. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have the most incredible day or night, whatever time it is over there. And yeah, bye guys!